Yes. And Riz, we asked a Survey Wednesday question roughly around the beginning of the year. And we asked biggest concern headed into the season. And I said agendas.
And there were agendas. And only now have we really seen it play out that the agenda for whether it be Flacco, whether it be Pickett, whether it be Gabriel, whoever wanted to be smarter and right ended up being wrong.
My initial thought was, wow, that was big Alima. Like, he didn't have to concede all of that right then and there. And while admitting basically that he just fell victim to the idea that the Browns were pushing him all sorts of information, and like a sucker at the poker table, he was buying it. Oh my goodness. I mean, I'm shocked he did that. Behind the scenes about Shedeur's lack of development and all this other stuff, and that it was hogwash. And meanwhile, I was getting shouted down by people like Lima who were telling me, no, you're not talking to the right people. Everyone that's there says he can't even do anything, can't even hold a football. It's like, no, guys, he can. He was really good in college. I'm telling you, this is going to translate. But to have the admittance there that you just took what they said and you ate it up and then tried spoon feeding it to everybody is what drives me insane. Have a thought for yourself. Have an opinion for yourself. Don't just take what the Browns tell you. That's the part that I get mad about. That's the part that I do get mad about.
A Cleveland Browns insider just went on ESPN Cleveland and leaked that Kevin Stefanski had a secret agenda against Shedeur Sanders. And the evidence is so damning that even Browns reporters are now admitting they were part of spreading lies and misleading information about Shedeur all season long. The QB tracker data from July showed Shedeur was the best quarterback in training camp, yet he was buried as the fourth-string guy and told he'd be redshirted. And now insiders are revealing Stefanski didn't want any part of Shedeur from day one. Even Browns owner Jimmy Haslam is on record saying the rookies needed to play in game situations, but somehow Dylan Gabriel got the starting job over Shedeur despite the black and white proof that Shedeur had the highest QB rating since he arrived in Cleveland. This isn't speculation anymore. This is Browns insiders confessing on air that there were agendas in place, and now we finally know the truth about what Shedeur Sanders was up against this whole time.
There was a secret agenda in place to pretty much put out lies and misleading information about Shedeur Sanders. Guys, for this one here, we got to go all the way up to Cleveland. Let's get it. Let's go. When people be all like, God, don't play about me, or God, don't play about them. This is a prime example of one of them type of situations, bruh. See, God, don't play about the Sanders. You can say whatever you want. You could.
If you couple that with the fact that you're not watching film, they're not breaking any tape down, they're not sitting with anybody doing X's and O's. So let me get this straight. You didn't watch him play in college. When I ask you, why don't you think he's good? You point to another person's opinion and say, I'm not an expert in that. I'm just take their word for it. And then you've never seen any good quarterbacks play. As a matter of fact, I can't even point to any in Cleveland. And it's different from looking at a quarterback from afar, another team successful, than looking at the one you got right now. And now you dismiss what you see in plain sight, all in the sake of narratives. And that's how you get to a point where fifth round picks become the storyline. That's how you get where people get focused on.
Look, I need y'all to understand something right now. What we're about to expose is bigger than just bad coaching decisions. This is about a systematic effort by the Cleveland Browns organization to bury Shedeur Sanders before he even had a chance to prove himself. And now, the same media members who were part of spreading the lies are finally coming clean and admitting there was an agenda all along. Let me take you back to where this story really begins, because this isn't just about what's happening now. This goes all the way back to July and August, when the Browns were running training camp in Berea. You remember those QB tracker reports that were coming out from ESPN Cleveland and the Browns' official channels, right? Those practice reports that were supposed to give fans an inside look at how the quarterbacks were performing? Well, here's what those QB trackers actually showed. Shedeur Sanders was consistently outperforming every quarterback on that roster. The data was right there in black and white. Joe Flacco was completing 58% of his passes. Meanwhile, Shedeur Sanders had the highest QB rating of everyone in camp from the moment he stepped foot in Cleveland. Think about that for a second. The proof was there from day one. The numbers don't lie. The statistics were clear as day. And yet, what happened? Shedeur got buried on the depth chart as the fourth-string quarterback. They literally told this man he was going to be redshirted, that he wasn't even going to see the field his rookie season. Now, how does that make any sense? How do you have the best performing quarterback in your building according to your own internal tracking data, and you make him fourth string behind Joe Flacco, Mason Rudolph, and Dylan Gabriel? How does that happen unless there's something else going on?
This is Jimmy Haslam, right? Listen to this, y'all. And we're going to talk about him a little later.
But organizationally, do you think it's important when you talk about we need to see these rookies in game situation before you have 2 first-round picks in 2026?
Absolutely. So, but I mean, that's Kevin is aware of that. He knows how important quarterback is, and he and Andrew talk about those kind of things all the time. I mean, it's a daily, ongoing conversation.
And that's exactly what a Browns insider just revealed on ESPN Cleveland. Listen to what was said on the show this morning, and I quote, "I asked a Survey Wednesday question roughly around the beginning of the year, and we asked biggest concern headed into the season, and I said agendas, and there were agendas, and there were agendas. And only now have we really seen it play out, that the agenda for whether it be Flacco, whether it be Pickett, whether it be Gabriel, whoever wanted to be smarter and right ended up being wrong." Y'all, a Browns insider just admitted on ESPN Cleveland that there were agendas in place from the beginning of the season. This isn't some conspiracy theory. This isn't fans being paranoid. This is someone who covers the team every single day, saying on the record that there were agendas working against Shedeur Sanders. But it gets even deeper than that. Another insider on the same show said something that's going to blow your mind. He said, "I don't think Stefanski wanted any part of Shedeur." Let that sink in. Kevin Stefanski, the head coach of the Cleveland Browns, didn't want any part of Shedeur Sanders. From day one, the coach didn't want him. And now we're finding out that this wasn't just a coaching preference. This was an active agenda to keep Shedeur off the field no matter how well he performed. The insider continued, "Tony wrote today, and I have to ask him, I don't know where he got this or whether he's speculating. He basically tried to say today that Shedeur wasn't putting in the work early on, and that's what turned people off in the building. I have no idea if that's the case, but I know this, when you're fourth string and they're telling you they're going to redshirt you, I mean, that's, as a young person, which Shedeur is, that's kind of tough to deal with. I'm not saying I'd have went into a closet somewhere and turned everybody off, but it's really hard to stay engaged when people don't believe in you to build it. So now they're trying to spin it like Shedeur wasn't putting in the work, after he was the best quarterback in camp according to their own data, after he had the highest QB rating from day one. Now they want to claim he wasn't engaged?
Now listen.
Was he the best quarterback in July in Berea?
Yes. The QB tracker says so.
Nobody could see that. Does that bother you that your professional football organization could not identify the best quarterback in their own building?
Yes. And Riz, we asked a Survey Wednesday question roughly around the beginning of the year. And we asked biggest concern headed into the season.
Nah, let me tell you what really happened. They made Shedeur fourth string and told him he was getting redshirted. They made it clear from jump that they had no intention of playing him regardless of how he performed. And then, when he naturally struggled to stay motivated after being disrespected like that, they used it as justification for keeping him buried. That's some manipulative, backstabbing behavior right there. They created a situation where Shedeur couldn't win, and then blamed him for the situation they created. But here's where it gets even more damning. Listen to this exchange that happened on ESPN Cleveland. The host asked point blank, was he the best quarterback in July in Berea? And the answer? Yes. 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 The QB tracker says so. Then came the follow-up question that exposes everything. Does that bother you that your professional football organization could not identify the best quarterback in their own building? And the answer was simply yes. Y'all, Browns insiders are now openly admitting that the organization failed to identify the best quarterback they had. The data was right there. The performance was right there. The QB tracker, their own internal evaluation system, showed Shedeur was the best, and they still chose to bury him. That's not just bad judgment. That's not just poor coaching. That's a deliberate agenda to keep Shedeur Sanders off the field regardless of merit or performance. And you know what makes this even more suspicious? It took Kevin Stefanski 2 months to even say Shedeur's name publicly. 2 months! This man was on the roster, working his tail off every day, and the head coach refused to even acknowledge his existence for 2 full months. How do you explain that? How do you justify refusing to even say a player's name for 2 months if there's not some personal issue or agenda at play? The content creator and the source material said it perfectly. Kevin Stefanski just don't like Shedeur. It's clear as day he don't like him. It took him 2 months to say his name. Like, did we forget about all of that?
Why did Dylan Gabriel have to go first? Why even draft Dylan Gabriel? Now, this was the same Jimmy Haslam embracing Coach Prime. Now,
what's going on? Honored to see you. How you doing? How we doing?
How you feeling? We're glad to have you. Are we taking care of you? You need anything?
No, we didn't forget. And now that Shedeur has finally gotten his chance and dominated, throwing for 364 yards and 4 touchdowns in a historic performance, all these Browns insiders are suddenly coming out of the woodwork admitting what we all knew from the beginning. There was an agenda against him. But let me show you something else that's going to make your blood boil. Browns owner Jimmy Haslam was asked directly about the importance of getting the rookies game experience before the 2026 draft, and here's what he said. Absolutely. Absolutely. Kevin is aware of that. He knows how important quarterback is, and he and Andrew talk about those kind of things all the time. It's a daily, ongoing conversation. So Jimmy Haslam, the owner of the team, is on record saying it's absolutely important to get the rookies game experience. He says Kevin Stefanski is aware of that and that it's a daily, ongoing conversation between the coach and the GM. And yet, what happened? Dylan Gabriel got the start. Dylan Gabriel, who was worse than Shedeur in the QB tracker data, got first-team reps while Shedeur was made 4th string. How does that make sense if the owner is saying the rookies need game experience and Shedeur was performing better than Dylan in practice? It doesn't make sense. Unless, and here's the key, unless there was a specific agenda against Shedeur specifically, not against rookies in general, but against Shedeur Sanders in particular. And we actually have video evidence of Jimmy Haslam's relationship with Coach Prime and the Sanders family. There's footage of Haslam at a game embracing Deion Sanders, being friendly, showing support. He's on camera asking Coach Prime, "How we doing? How you feeling? We're glad to have you. We take care of it. You need anything?" So the owner of the Browns has a good relationship with the Sanders family. The owner says the rookies need game experience. The QB tracker data shows Shedeur was the best quarterback in camp, and yet Stefanski buries him at 4th string and refuses to even say his name for 2 months. That tells you everything you need to know about where the agenda was coming from. This wasn't coming from ownership. This was coming from the coaching staff. Specifically, it was coming from Kevin Stefanski.
Things all the time. I mean, it's a daily, ongoing conversation.
I know you said it's Kevin.
So Jimmy Haslam stated in his clip that we had to see the rookies in the game. Why did Dylan Gabriel have to go first? Why even draft Dylan Gabriel? Now, this was the same Jimmy Haslam embracing Coach Prime. Now,
what's going on? Honored to see you. How you doing?
Now let's talk about why this agenda existed. Because the Browns insider gave us a clue. When discussing the situation, he mentioned that there were people in the building who wanted to be smarter in right, but ended up being wrong. What does that mean? It means there were people in that organization, coaches, maybe scouts, maybe front office people, who had their own preferred quarterbacks, whether it was Joe Flacco, or Mason Rudolph, or Dylan Gabriel. These people had already decided who they wanted to play, regardless of what the data showed. And when Shedeur Sanders came in as a 5th-round pick with the famous last name, with Coach Prime as his father, with all the media attention and star power, these people in the organization made a decision that they weren't going to let him succeed. They were going to prove they were smarter than everyone else. They were going to show that the Sanders hype was overblown and their guy was better. But here's the thing about agendas. Eventually, the truth comes out. And the truth is that Shedeur Sanders was always the best quarterback in that building from day one. The QB tracker proved it, the practice performance proved it, and now that he's finally gotten game action, the on-field results prove it. 364 yards and 4 touchdowns against the Titans, 2 comeback drives from double-digit deficits, making plays in structure and out of structure, showing elite accuracy, pocket presence, and leadership, breaking Browns rookie records, looking better than Cam Ward, the #1 overall pick. All of that proves what we've been saying from the beginning. Shedeur Sanders is a franchise quarterback who got a raw deal in Cleveland because of a coaching staff that had an agenda against him from day one.
Listen to this.
I don't think Stefanski wanted any part of Shedeur. And Tony wrote today, and I have to ask him, I don't know where he got this or whether he's speculating. He basically tried to say today that Shedeur wasn't putting in the work early on, and that's what turned people off in the building. I have no idea if that's the case. But I know this, when you're 4th string and they're telling you they're going to redshirt you, I mean, that's, you know, as a young person, which Shedeur is, that's kind of tough to deal with. I'm not saying I'd have went into into a closet somewhere and turned everybody off.
And you know what's crazy? Even now, after everything we know, there are still Browns media members trying to justify what happened. That reporter, Tony, tried to put out a story claiming Shedeur wasn't putting in the work early on, and that's what turned people off in the building. But the insider who mentioned that on ESPN Cleveland immediately pushed back on it, saying, I have no idea if that's the case, and then explaining how hard it is for a young player to stay engaged when you're 4th string and being told you're getting redshirted. When people don't believe in you, when they make it clear they don't want you, how are you supposed to maintain peak motivation every single day? That's the human element of this story that people forget. Shedeur Sanders is 22 years old. This is his first year in the NFL. He comes into an organization where the QB tracker data shows he's the best, but the coaching staff buries him anyway and won't even say his name for 2 months. That's psychological warfare. That's breaking a young player's confidence on purpose. But here's what they didn't count on. They didn't count on Shedeur's mental toughness. They didn't count on his faith. They didn't count on him having a father who's been through everything in professional sports and knows how to help his son navigate adversity. The content creator in the source material said it beautifully. When any negativity come their way, God rebuke it. Quick, fast, in a hurry. There has been an agenda in place by the Cleveland Brown organization. It looked like this was for real. Looked like this has been the game plan all season long. And you know what? He's right. There's something about the Sanders family that's just protected. Every time somebody comes at them with hate, with agendas, with schemes to tear them down, it backfires. Every single time. They tried to bury Shedeur at 4th string. Backfired. Now he's the starter and looking like a future Pro Bowler. They spread lies and misleading information about him through the media. Backfired. Now those same media members are admitting there were agendas. They tried to redshirt him and keep him off the field all season. Backfired. Now he's making history and getting national attention. Kevin Stefanski thought he could prove he was smarter than everyone else by not playing Shedeur. Backfired. Now Stefanski's job is in serious jeopardy, and everyone's questioning his evaluation skills.
See, God don't play about the Sanders. You can say whatever you want. You could Google whatever you want. You could tweet whatever you want. But when it comes down to the fact of the matter is this family is highly protected and covered with the grace of the Lord. I just got to be honest, man. I mean, time after time after time, even going way back to the early 90s with Coach Prime, it's just something about that family, something about that last name that has shown me since I've been covering this thing for the last going on 4 years of straight covering the Sanders is that
See, that's what happens when you move with an agenda instead of moving with integrity. That's what happens when you let personal bias cloud your professional judgment. That's what happens when you try to sabotage a young man's career because you don't like his last name or you're jealous of the attention he gets. And let me be clear about something. This isn't just about Shedeur Sanders. This is about every young player who gets drafted into a situation where the coaching staff has already decided they don't want them. This is about every athlete who performs at a high level but gets buried on the depth chart because of politics and agendas. How many talented players have had their careers ruined or delayed because a coach had a favorite guy and refused to give the better player a fair shot? How many future stars got cut or traded before they could prove themselves because someone in the building didn't want any part of them? The NFL is supposed to be a meritocracy. The best players are supposed to play. But what happened to Shedeur Sanders in Cleveland proves that's not always the case. Sometimes agendas trump talent. Sometimes politics trump performance. Sometimes egos trump excellence. But here's the beautiful part of this story. Shedeur still made it, despite the agenda, despite the lies, despite being fourth string, despite Kevin Stefanski not wanting any part of him. Despite all of it, Shedeur Sanders still found a way to get on the field and show the world what he can do. And now, all those people who were part of the agenda are being exposed. Browns insiders are going on ESPN Cleveland and admitting there were agendas. Reporters are having to explain why they spread misleading information. Coaches are being questioned about their evaluation processes. The truth is coming to light. And the truth is that Shedeur Sanders was the victim of a secret agenda by Kevin Stefanski and others in the Browns organization who didn't want him to succeed. But you know what the content creator said at the end of his video? Shake the damn haters off. And that's exactly what Shedeur did. He shook off the haters, he shook off the agenda, he shook off the lies and the negativity and the people who didn't believe in him. And he went out there and dominated when he finally got his chance.
But I know this, when you're fourth string and they're telling you they're going to redshirt you, I mean, that's, you know, as a young person, which Shedeur is, that's kind of tough to deal with. I'm not saying I'd have went into into a closet somewhere and turned everybody off, but it's really hard to stay engaged when people don't believe in you in the building.
Now he's got Josh Allen, Caleb Williams, Aaron Rodgers, and Joe Burrow coming up over the next 4 weeks. 4 of the best quarterbacks in the entire league. This is Shedeur's opportunity to cement himself as not just a good quarterback, but an elite quarterback, to show that he belongs in the conversation with the best in the game. And if he keeps performing the way he's been performing, if he keeps making history and breaking records and leading comebacks, then Kevin Stefanski and everyone else who was part of that agenda against him are going to look even more foolish than they already do. Because at the end of the day, talent always wins, truth always comes to light, and players who are supposed to be great will be great regardless of the obstacles people try to put in their way. Shedeur Sanders is living proof of that. He's living proof that you can overcome agendas, overcome lies, overcome people who don't want you to succeed, as long as you keep working, keep believing, and keep trusting that your time will come. And now that his time has come, everybody who doubted him, everybody who was part of the agenda, everybody who spread lies, they all have to watch him shine. They all have to watch him prove them wrong week after week after week. That's the sweetest revenge there is. Not cussing people out, not getting into arguments, just performing at such a high level that even your haters have to admit you're great. That's what Shedeur Sanders is doing right now, and that's why this story is so powerful. So, here's my question for all of you. If Browns insiders are now admitting there were agendas against Shedeur from the beginning, should Kevin Stefanski be fired for sabotaging his own team's best quarterback? Should the Browns organization apologize to Shedeur and the Sanders family for how they were treated? And will Shedeur use this disrespect as fuel to become one of the greatest quarterbacks in NFL history? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this story is far from over. Browns insiders are exposing the agenda, and we need to make sure everyone knows what Shedeur Sanders had to overcome to get where he is today. If you think Shedeur is about to dominate his next 4 games against elite competition and make Kevin Stefanski look even more foolish, smash that subscribe button, because we're going to cover every step of this journey. The agenda has been exposed, the lies are being admitted, and Shedeur Sanders is just getting started. Let's go.